So today, I want to take just a few minutes to talk to you about a couple of cool tools, as Tyler wrote down. We have bias tape makers. I expect everybody's familiar with these. They've been around for a long time. I brought one in from home, kind of an older version. Bias tape makers in various sizes. And then Pat came in and she handed me the demo kit for these little gadgets, and these are called Sasher Tools. And I thought, well, I could sort of see a use for something like that. So I've been playing a little bit with those, and we'll show you some of the fun things we can do with Sasher Tools. So, bias tape makers. Yeah, we've all had to make bias tape. I know I made a whack of it. My fingers, I think, still have the burns when we first started to make masks. And one of our sons didn't want the ear loops. He wanted ties because he's a fairly big guy. He's got a big bushy beard, right? So he just wanted ties. So I thought, I can make some bias strips. I used up all of the stuff that I had at home. So I'm cutting fabric and I'm folding it and I'm going, why don't I get out my bias tape maker? But I couldn't find it at the time. But that's what we have here so that you can see how I've gotten that started. So you're going to cut your strip, and you can do it on the straight grain, which this is, or you can do it on the bias if you need a bias strip, and you're going to gradually wiggle it through. And I found you give it a little shove and you can grab it with some tweezers, or I just used my little snips to kind of coax it through. So now I've got that just as a little tube almost that's coming out. So I can set that down on my ironing board and my little pressing mat. I could take my iron, press it down, slide this down, take my iron and give it a press. So you can see I'm getting a nice even fold in that. Wiggle it around if it's not behaving. Just press that down. So these guys come in a variety of widths. So you can make your bias strips, your bias tape, in different sizes. And I was poking around. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? I was poking around out there on the Clover rack because that's mostly the brand that we carry, and I found this little tiny one. It is 6 millimeters or 1/4 of an inch, and this one is specifically designed not just to fold your fabric into that little 1/4 inch, but you can also feed a fusible strip. Comes on a roll. It's that lovely stuff we used to use for our stained glass quilts. You can feed that right through the gadget and it will go right down onto your bias strip, onto your folded strip as you make it. You can press that right down onto the strip as you're making it, and then all you have to do is peel off that backing paper and you have a fusible little narrow strip to put down onto your project. So something like this is going to be great if you like to do vines for hand or machine applique. So what else? I thought, okay, that's good. What's this one? This one's a 1/2 inch. Yeah, that could be useful. And we just might use something this size a little bit later on because I really do want to talk weaving sometime. But I kept looking and they got bigger and bigger until I ran across this guy. He's the big guy. So again, you can use fabric cut on the straight grain, or you can use fabric cut on the bias. Now this one is a 2 inch strip folder. So you are going to wind up with a strip of fabric 2 inches wide with the edges already folded in that you could then take. So you would wind up with a strip like this. The edges are folded in. So now if you want to put a machine binding around a placemat, half the work is done for you. You fold it over the edge and stitch it down. It's nice and crisp and not going to slither out of your way. So I thought, well, this is really kind of cool. I can make as long a strip as I want. I like to press it, but you don't have to. You could start from this point, right like that, and just put it under your sewing machine and sew it as you work it through. Let's see how that works. So I'm going to bring this over to my sewing machine. I have my needle set in the center position, but I could switch it. Let's switch it over to the right position because my fold is over here. Drop my presser foot and start off a little slowly. There we go. So this part I have already pressed. It's going to fold up nicely. Somebody, when I was investigating this process in preparation for today, somebody also mentioned that this big fella here, the big guy, would make great strips, folded strips, if you are doing the rugs where you need the strips folded around a center core. So now I'm getting to the point. There we are. I'm getting to the point where I have to pull this down and it's rolling that. So I can just tuck it in. It's a little harder. And stitch it down. Oh, move it down. Looking pretty good. Take that out. So I'm pretty sure that process isn't really new for a lot of people. Bias tape makers have been around for a number of years. We've all used them quite successfully. So a few years ago, we heard about these tools called Sasher Tools. And they look like this, and they come in a variety of sizes. I've got a couple of packs here. So this is the little mini pack, and it makes 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, and 1/2 inch little strips. And then this is the bigger set right here, and it's going to make between 1/8 and 2.5 inch strips. So I'm going, oh yeah, I'm not sure how they work, but I had the opportunity. We had a demo kit that was already open. I thought, I'm going to play with it. I'm going to see what it does. We also have a book. The lady that created the Sasher Tools right here, this lady, and she's from Australia, and she designed it to create the sashing that goes in her Quilt As You Go quilts. So it pays sometimes to not go, oh yeah, well, I never do that, because if you investigate a tool or a product, you can find all kinds of ways to use it. So although her book is about how to use her Sasher tools for Quilt As You Go, there's lots of other uses for them. So I thought, I'm going to experiment. So I have my strip of fabric, and this is cut. This one here is a 1-inch Sasher tool. And so I have a 2-inch piece of fabric. And I'm going to start to begin with by folding that fabric, folding about the first inch or so by hand, folding it in, hit it with the iron just to hold it like that. So now I have it right to the width that I need, and I'm going to take my little tool and I'm going to go up and I'm going to go down. There we go. So now it's threaded through just like that. Line that up. Now these little guys are designed to be heat safe and to actually mimic the curve on your iron. And I'm working backwards because I'm right-handed, so I'm going to switch that. So now what you can do is just put your iron gently against your sasher and nudge it with your iron all the way along. That is so slick. I like this. I just might have to get some of these. So you can see, you can just do this in one movement. Ease it together with your hands and slide it down with your iron. So, comes out beautifully folded, ready to go for whatever project you want to make. And there's that little guy. Again, look at this. There's a little 1/4 inch strip done with the 1/4 inch sasher. Let's put it down there. And that is perfect if you are doing hand applique, even machine applique. I've got this. Oh, I think this one just might be threaded through the wrong way. This was in the original demo kit. So slide it this way. I don't know how well you can see that. Turn that around, slide her down, and press it. I have a feeling whoever threaded this one threaded it the wrong way over. But you know, bet you can flip it. Pull it up, flip it. There. That's better. There we go. So again, you're just going to nudge it down with your iron. A little trickier on these smaller stems. And prepare your little strip ready to applique down. So that is just one of the slickest things. I was teaching the free motion class this morning. So because we're working on domestic machines, it's nice to keep our quilting area fairly small. So that's where a quilt as you go technique could come in handy. And this is a wonderful way of getting the strips prepared that you can use as sashing in between your pre-quilted blocks. There's lots of tips and techniques that we can play with. I already kind of know what I'm going to do with these guys. It's going to be a couple of weeks yet, but we all have so much fabric that we have stashed at home, but we don't have a current use for it. And some of those little pieces, those little, you know, you've got 0.4 left over or 0.2 left over. Well, what are you going to do with it? So I tried doing some weaving with fabric strips a little while ago, and I think I'm going to sit down sometime, make myself a whole whack of those guys, this one, and see what I can come up with as far as creating a woven piece of fabric, and we'll make a bag or something out of it. So this is a good head start on that sort of thing. So this has Sasher Tools in it, between 1/8 inch and 2.5 inches. The one that I was using is the 1-inch sasher, so that gives you a 1-inch finished strip. I have learned something new today. I hope you folks have as well. I was always a fan of bias tape makers. They work well, but I really like those Sasher tools, so I might have to treat myself. Until we join you tomorrow, stay safe, stay calm, stay kind, everybody. Take care, everyone. Have a good evening.